So for this composite, I got my inspiration from a graphic artist who has done a different image every day for the past 13 years. And he's made these really cool container images of Google and Netflix that I really like, so I thought I'd try and do an Amazon one. So the first thing I looked for was the shipping containers, and I got a lot of different sizes and angles to choose from. Then, since this is an Amazon theme, I got some package boxes that I could throw around in at the end for some more details. I also grabbed the Amazon logo so I could put it front and center on a container. Then, since drones are eventually going to take over, I got a bunch of Amazon delivery drones and even found a giant Amazon blimp that I could have the drones coming out of. I also got some air traffic towers to throw in to add to the drone theme. Then the last thing I needed were my backgrounds, so the floor I looked for a desert sand landscape like the image inspiration, and then I went with a night sky because I wanted to make it a little bit different from the inspiration, and with it being night I could also add a bunch of lights to the drones. So in Photoshop I started off combining and blending my backgrounds together. Then after that, it was all about adding the containers and trying to get the perspective as accurate as possible, which did take a long time because I did add a lot of containers going in different directions, and also because this was my first time I did something of this scale where I had to play around with the perspective and angles of everything in my image. And for right now, I wasn't concerned with the colors and logos on the container because later, when I finally had them all in, I could easily just change the colors and get rid of the logos. But also, the higher I got, the harder it was to get the perspective right, even though I was starting to get the hang of it more. And then once I finally had all my containers in, I added one of my air traffic towers, and when you first look at it, you might think cutting it out would be a nightmare, but I just used the color range selection and clicked on the blue sky, and it did a good job of selecting the tower. Then I added my blimp because it was the last large thing I had to add, and then I could start placing all the little drones around it. Then when adding the drones, it took a while because I had a good amount, and since they were weird shapes, the subject select tool kept selecting a lot of sky when I was just trying to select the drones. But I just placed them all around the blimp in different sizes, and I kept the actual Amazon ones bigger so you could actually see them. Then I added another air traffic tower like the ones they have in airports, and as you can tell, it's night in the image, and I like the blue lights on it, and this was why I chose to make my image nighttime so I could use this tower. Then at first, when placing the tower, I was just going to put it on the ground, but I didn't like that, so I put it on top of the containers. Once I finally had everything placed, I color corrected everything so that it would all match the sand. And then I started to change the colors of the containers because right now, with all the random colors, it's just really distracting. And then since it's supposed to be night, I darkened everything with a levels adjustment and some nighttime LUTs. Then I added some lights to the drones with a red color fill layer and just painted it in with a low opacity brush. And then I also added some blue lights on the bottom of the blimp as well. Then I added some packages all around the image in case you forgot what Amazon does. Then I added some shadows to the containers and the stuff on the ground, as well as another color fill to add some more yellow glow to the windows on the air traffic tower. And then I duplicated and flattened the image to run my frequency separation action to get rid of all the logos on the containers. And the reason I duplicated the image was because of how many layers I had. Things are starting to move a little bit slower in Photoshop, and because with the action, you can't go back and make changes, so I thought I'd just speed things up a little bit. And then originally with the green container, I wanted it to be sticking out over the blue one, but for the life of me, I couldn't find a way to change the perspective of a container to look like it was the bottom, and I didn't have an image of a container from that angle that I could use, so I just had to clone the container so it looked longer. And then finally, I added the Amazon logo to the blue container. And here is the image. So for this being my first time doing something like this, I think it turned out okay, but you know, this was just about trying out different things and working on improving my skills, which I think I did.